Hi, this is Eric from Longbox Review at longboxreview.wordpress.com.
And this is Travis from Oddfellows Thoughts at YouTube.
And Travis and I are recording today, bringing you this episode because there's been some news recently that we wanted to talk about, and then some other things that have happened, fairly recently. I won't say immediate, but just some news that has come out in the last few weeks, perhaps. And just some tidbits that we thought we would want to talk about. So that's what we'll do today. But first I wanted to get into or share with Travis and you a nice iTunes review I got from for the Longbox Review podcast. So I wanted to read that and thank the person who wrote it. And this is from Stanford Harvey Jr., who actually has been mentioned on the podcast before with some feedback on Twitter. And he wrote, "Great podcast that is very honest and isn't trying to shove all the mainstream comics down your throat. Very honest and open, and I always know what the thoughts are regarding comics and upcoming books in the previews. Keep up the good work."
Cool.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Harvey. That was great. Wait a minute, Travis, I heard you laugh there when I read the part about the mainstream comics.
Well, we talk a lot about mainstream comics.
Yeah.
But it's nice to know we're not trying to shove them down anybody's throat, because I certainly hope that's not the case. So.
Yeah. Well, we actually here recently, I think we've been talking a lot about a lot of independent stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I have had conversations off the mic about our concerns, I'll say, about some mainstream stuff.
Yeah.
And how we seem to be focusing more on or liking more. And I'm putting words in your mouth, so please correct me, but we seem to be liking a lot of the independent stuff a lot more recently.
I think we're gravitating towards better stories as to hanging on to our childhood love affair with certain characters. That's what it is for me, anyway.
I think it's a good way to put it. Yeah.
I still get some of those mainstream comic books because I love those characters, but in a lot of cases they're, mediocrely written.
Mm. Now, so you, we weren't planning to talk about this, but let's go ahead and open up the box here, Travis.
Sure.
So you say mediocrely written. What about
art?
Are you talking about the art too, or
yeah?
Okay.
Production-wise,
the whole package.
Yep.
Okay. That's interesting. Because I think a lot of the art that we're seeing these days is really, I think, pretty good in the mainstream stuff for the most part. But
you don't feel like there's a big segment of artists that basically apes, probably not the word I want to use, but they all look like each other. They don't move off the variation of this is traditional superhero art, and so therefore it has to look this way because this is how you tell a story in superhero art.
Well, okay, yes, you have that.
When there's no reason that they couldn't tell those same stories using a wide variety of style, and who knows, we might even enjoy it more.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. I think this goes along with this line of thinking. So, you were reading, at least, I don't know if you still are, but Captain Marvel.
Still am.
Okay. So what do you think of the artist that's on Captain Marvel for those first few issues?
Dexter Slay? Yeah.
Yeah. And in relation to, I guess, the type of story they're telling, the tone of the story.
It's strange. It's a strange combination.
Mm-hmm.
I will admit it's a strange combination. I like the art, and and I'm really enjoying that story now. But it's a strange combination because it feels to me like the story itself is a bright, kind of, positive, moving type of a story, and I think the art style. I still rather see that art style in that book, even though it seems a little odd, than to have it be some very standard run of the mill superhero art. Because at least now when I open up the book, it immediately looks different than what everybody else has got in their book.
Mm-hmm.
And so it holds my interest for that.
So it's just you are responding to the quote unquote typical superhero art.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's you would like to see less of that, even in superhero comics,
Yes.
than what you are seeing now. Okay.
Right. I think more superhero comics need to have the art needs to have more personality. I don't think to me it seems like there's a lot of artists where, at least for me, when I open it up, I can't tell you immediately who the artist is because
Hmm.
they have no unique personality or voice of their own.
Hmm.
They're just a homogenized kind of a, you know, production house feeling kind of a look,
Hmm.
as opposed to, you can crack open, some people's art and it's immediately, I know that's George Perez. I know that's, all those different people. You know who they are. And it's
So
not just they've been around forever. They have a style.
right. So you would like to see more artists have a personal, recognizable style.
Yes.
Okay. Hmm. Well, I'm gonna have to mull on that. I think we should bring that up in a future episode, Travis.
Sure.
Because I don't know. The stuff I read, at least, I don't know. I look at it in terms of how the artist is meshing with the type of story that is being told
Sure.
in that comic for that character. So I don't know. To me, in general, I think things work out pretty well overall for the stuff I'm reading.
Well, it may be one of those days where I'm just being hypercritical too. So
Okay.
it's been a rough week, let me tell you.
All right. Like I said, we'll come back to this in a future talk, I think.
Sounds
So
good.
I think this would be a really good conversation to have. So, all right. Well, let's move on then. Let's talk about some news that's happened recently, including something that happened just this last Friday. What is today? So that would be the 9th, Friday the
Mhm.
9th. That's when some of this news broke. Anyway, we'll get to that. All right, first up, let's talk about the first thing on the list here that just basically blew the minds of fanboys everywhere, and that was the sale of Lucasfilm to Disney. So Disney now owns Star Wars.
Yeah.
Now,
But
I
how much
don't.
longer do we got before Disney owns every thing like, they have to buy what, Hasbro now, and let's see what else, and they'll pretty much the Star Trek franchise,
Oh
they'll
my
pretty much
God,
own
could you
everything, right?
imagine if they owned Star Wars and Star Trek?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That if I heard that news, then my mind would freak. But see that's just what I was going to ask you because I'm a fan of Star Wars, just like I think
Uh-huh.
millions of us across the world are. But I was never, I would say, a big fanboy of Star Wars. It wasn't that big of a deal to me. It was entertaining, and
Mhm.
I appreciated the universe until they got to the second trilogy, um, or the prequels.
Yeah.
I guess that'd be the better way to put it.
Yeah.
And it was okay. So what about you? What's your relationship with Star Wars?
That's kind of where I am. I mean, I definitely as a kid had a much heavier um love affair with it, just because it was kind of, felt like groundbreaking sci-fi at the time, kind of a thing. It wasn't as campy as the Star Trek TV show, and that's about the only real heavy sci-fi we had, right? When we were kids, when those first Star Wars movies came out. And No, it was a big deal then. I mean, I don't, but I don't love it to the point where I feel like I have some ownership of it, which, of course, as we become heavy fans of things, whether we admit to it or not, tend to feel like we have some level of ownership in it. And I
Surely you
don't.
jest.
Oh no. We'll get to it. We're going to be talking about some other stuff later on that'll be pretty obvious that I feel like I have ownership of it. So
Okay.
there you go.
Yeah.
But um, but no, I mean, it's it's interesting. I mean, I guess I look at it this way: it's a franchise we know is going to be around, regardless of who owns it. It's not like it's going to disappear, right?
Hmm.
Lucas didn't. I mean, if he didn't keep it in himself, he was going to sell it to somebody. Um, and I know that Disney can be seen as the corporate machine and be all evil and whatnot, but I also think that they probably have a better chance of putting out a actual quality product.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably better so than what the last couple films have been and whatnot.
Oh God, yes. Yeah,
So
so you bring up exactly pretty much my whole thought process when I heard the well. Okay, first of all, when I heard the news, I thought it was a joke. I thought
yeah.
somebody was trying to propagate a Twitter joke. Um,
Hmm.
but then I read the article. I'm like, oh my God, this is real.
Yeah.
Who knew that Lucas wanted to do this?
Yeah.
And so my first thought was, oh my God, they've sold this in many fans' eyes this fantastic franchise to
Uh-huh.
the the corporate machine of Disney.
Hmm.
But then my second thought was, well, good, at least Lucas isn't involved anymore.
Right. Right. I hear you. That's kind of where I was too.
And then I thought, but you know what? Yes, it's Disney and all that entails, but at the same time, Disney has made some really good. I mean, well, with their association, I'm speaking
Sure.
with their association with Pixar.
Right.
They've put out some really good
Since they bought that. Yeah,
movies.
without a doubt. Without a doubt.
But then they also put out things like High School Musical and those, because
Oh, sure,
I
but
have
that's a
young
different.
kids, and I have you watched any of those shows that are focused more for the preteen set on
Yes.
Disney, the
Yes.
Disney Channel? Oh my God, those are awful.
Yep. For sure.
Anyway, but that's
But
that's
that's a
that's
completely
Disney
different monster.
TV, yeah,
Right. That's
and
a
then we
different
have the
monster.
movie. So
They'll treat this thing completely different than they treated that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
like they treat the Pixar stuff differently than they treat,
hmm
some of their other regular Disney movies and stuff.
hmm
It's a different beast, and they'll treat it that way because they're, I think they're smart enough business people that they understand that they have to treat that in a different fashion. So I'm not worried about it.
Well, and so then there's that blast, that shot across the bow, so to speak, of the, imagery of explosions and whatnot. But here's the news: Disney owns Star Wars, and
And
then they say you're going to have a new Star Wars film, Episode 7, in 2015.
15, yep,
Holy
they've already
crap!
they've already named the writer.
Yes,
The writer they named. Yeah, I can't remember his name right now. The guy that wrote um, Toy Story 3 and
yes,
what, Eternal Sunshine? No, what is that?
yeah.
I can't remember the movie.
Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah, yeah,
Good film, by the way.
it is. That's an interesting combination between those
I
two
know.
films.
Don't
And
you?
to say he's writing a Star Wars film, I'm thinking, wow, that could be about anything, couldn't it? My
No.
biggest concern though is, and I don't read Star Wars comic books, but what the hell does that mean for Dark Horse?
Thank you. That was where I was going with that next.
Yeah.
Exactly. What's the impact of Dark Horse? Now, I just looked at before we got started. I looked at the latest previews, and whenever I go through previews, and Dark Horse is first in previews, and I flip through it, and it's like the first several pages are Star Wars, Star Wars, Star
Right.
Wars, Star Wars,
Oh
and
yeah.
I don't read the Star Wars comics. I have no interest in the Star Wars comics, although there's one that they're coming out with here pretty soon that I almost thought about getting. But anyway, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, wow, that's a lot of Star Wars franchise that they're going to be losing here eventually.
Yeah.
And the president of Dark Horse, Mike Richardson, has gone on record saying that Dark Horse will continue to have Star Wars
For the
comics
foreseeable future.
for the near future, whatever
Near
it
future.
means, right?
Yeah.
So eventually, I assume that Marvel
Marvel
will
taking it.
again start publishing Star Wars comics again, which is actually kind of neat in one sense because they originally published the Star Wars comic, back in the late 70s, right? They were the first
Yes.
to do a Star Wars comic.
Yeah, but my understanding is from everybody that I talk to that reads Star Wars books, and I know a few people who do, Star Wars books under Dark Horse have been actually really good, and
Hey,
they do not have a high opinion of it going to
yeah, I'm sure.
the Marvel imprint.
Yeah. Well, but at the same time, what I remember, not remember. That's the wrong phrase to use. Because I didn't read those Star Wars comics, but from what I have read over the years and heard people talk about was that they have a great fondness for those early Star Wars comics that came out of Marvel.
Yeah, in the same way they have a great fondness for those first Star Wars movies. It's a nostalgia thing. It's not that, oh my God, this is was a quality product that just blew my mind or something. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Let's throw it back to the listeners. Anybody who is listening to this and read those Marvel Star Wars comics, let us know. Is
Sure.
is Travis Rise a nostalgia thing, or were they actually really good? I wonder if Marvel has collected any of those comics, like in a
Oh yeah, I
set
don't know,
format
like
or
a trade or something. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Considering now that Disney owns Marvel and the Star Wars franchise, I wouldn't put it past them to reissue those old comics in some sort of trade format.
Yeah,
And that,
cash in on the hype
yeah,
of
that
the.
would make some business sense, right? And that would
Yeah.
give me an opportunity to read that stuff. I don't know if I'd actually buy it, but anyway. Star Wars just isn't that cool to me. I know, I said it. I have a friend from graduate school who was so into Star Wars that he got a tattoo on his wrist of the Rebel insignia.
Cool.
And I remember thinking, wow, somebody really likes Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Star Trek, but I'm not going to go get the Enterprise emblem tattooed on my body.
You're not gonna get the comm link tattooed on your chest, so you can. Yeah.
No, I'm not. No, 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 no. Although I have considered getting the Superman shield on my as a tattoo. So
Well, you are obviously not a really dedicated fan.
I
That's
get.
just pretty obvious.
Oh, so anyway, but I did mention, previews, looking through previews at the Star Wars stuff, and like I said, thinking that there was a lot of things having to do with Star Wars.
Uh-huh.
So I looked at the latest previews, and really, there's only there are three currently there are three miniseries that are being published. Well, that are being solicited, I should say, and
Uh-huh.
then the one ongoing, which is the new, starting with a new number one. Um, that is set in the classic era, they say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Written by Brian Wood.
Yeah.
Alex Ross doing a cover. So, Brian Wood, though, doing Star Wars, like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
You're a big fan of Brian Wood's work, right?
Sam. Yeah.
Are you picking this up?
No, I'm not.
Ah,
I'm just I'm not that interested in the Star Wars franchise.
mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
I like it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I enjoy watching the movies, but my enjoyment of it doesn't really go past that. My interest doesn't go past the movies.
yeah.
And after watching a few of those prequels, I'm unsure that my interest goes past that. I mean, don't get me wrong. With Disney doing a movie, I'll at least watch the first one that Disney puts out just to see what it's like under Disney, and then I'll see what I'm gonna do from there. But
Mm.
I haven't watched the last movie that was made.
You didn't watch that one?
Oh no, hell no.
Wait,
No.
so you put in the time and the money to watch the first two prequel movies,
Uh-huh.
but you didn't want to finish the trilogy.
No, sir. No, sir. It was that bad for me. So
Wow.
there you are.
See, I sat through it.
I'm sorry.
I know I'm cursing myself for it, but
Uh-huh. Because that just makes you feel all the better that I didn't.
yeah, yeah, yeah. In fact, one of the things
I won't even watch it for free. I mean, it's on television quite a bit, and I won't even watch it there. I got better things to spend my time doing.
you have
I'll read a
conviction,
comic book or something. So
That's right. That's right. I did read that. Speaking of that next movie, Episode 7, or whatever they're going to call it, but it seems like that they're going to maybe tie everything together as far as Luke and Leia and some of those other people. And I believe even Harrison Ford has said that he would be willing to come back to tie everything together, I guess. So
really,
that, if they get Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford to come back, even if it's just cameos,
oh yeah, I'll watch it. There's no doubt.
that'll be interesting to see at the very least.
Yeah.
So, all right. Have we talked Star Wars to death here?
As far as I'm concerned.
Right. That was big news though. About,
Oh yeah, it's huge.
about
In
cracking
the,
the internet open.
in the geek nerdom world, that's huge. I mean, that's big for even those of us who aren't like totally enwrapped in it. That's big news.
Yeah,
No
that's
doubt.
true. Well, speaking, so to speak, we did speak of Marvel and Marvel's involvement in this. Let's move on to a couple Marvel news items. The first thing I have is the announcement of the all-female team comic Fearless Defenders
Hmm.
by Colin Bunn and Will, I believe it's pronounced Sliney? Sliney? I'll say
Uh,
Sliney. I meant to look
I'm
that
not,
up, but I didn't.
Yeah, and I'm not familiar with his work
You know what? I looked it
as,
up. I,
as an
I looked
artist.
at his work. Yeah, he's the artist on this. This is coming in February 2013, and I looked up Mr. Sliney's work, and he looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Now I don't know. Did you see the cover image that they put out for this?
Yeah, that's just got what Valkyrie and oh, I don't remember the other person's name.
Misty Knight.
Yeah. And it's going to have a rotating cast of female heroes in it. They'll have a core member for a little while and then it'll kind of move around. It's kind of what the impression I got. And it's kind of a offshoot of the Fear Itself Fearless
Yeah.
mini that Cullen did.
Hmm?
But he swears up and down that it is it's not so tied into that somebody new who hasn't read that would be lost as to what's going on.
Hmm. You mean kind of like Uncanny Avengers was supposed to be this new jumping on point?
Yeah, what a freaking disaster that was.
All right.
Oh,
Well,
no, I'm not saying it wasn't a good comic. Don't people get the impression that I don't think it was a good comic? It was a good comic if you'd read the AVX and you knew what was going on and you understood the Marvel universe. If you're like, you know, 3/4 of my family who read comic books, they were all completely lost. So
mhm.
as far as it being a number one jumping on point, that was complete malarkey. So yeah, this is not supposed to be that. This is supposed to be something different.
Yeah, yeah. So
Do you think this was a planned thing? That this is all part of the original Marvel Now thing that they were going to crank out.
that Fearless Defenders was on board. They were going to do
Yeah,
this, as opposed to what? What are you suggesting here?
as opposed
What
to
reaction is this?
we had no intentions of making it all female
Ah,
superhero group, and this is our reaction to the continued fan base that keeps saying, Marvel, you're not treating your female superheroes very well, and in general, superhero comics not treating female superheroes very well, and giving them their own books and whatnot. So that'll be the third. Female-centric book that Marvel has.
okay. I'm really a bad fan of comics and Marvel comics, and specifically, what are the other two?
Well, Captain Marvel,
Oh,
right?
I was thinking teams, but yeah, okay.
Oh
Female
no, not
centric.
teams.
Okay,
No,
got
no,
it.
not teams. It's just and Red She-Hulk
Right.
and this new title.
Well, and there's also because they talked about this in relation to the Fearless Defenders. There's also the Sif specific or centric story
Oh,
and journey into mystery.
yeah, you're right. You're right.
So there's that as well.
Well,
Which
and really, if you look at the makeup of, we haven't read any of it yet or anything, obviously, but the new version of the FF it's all ladies except for Ant-Man.
Ant-Man, that's true. That's right. Hmm. So
But
so
I
you
just
think?
wonder. Well, they announced all of these Marvel Now things, right? I mean, they pretty much announced a whole ton of them. This one wasn't mentioned, and now suddenly you know, it's turning up. I don't know. I'm not complaining. I'm just curious as to
so you,
if it,
so you think that some editorial or higher ups at Marvel were going, you know what, we're getting some heat from the fans because we don't have enough female centric books
yeah.
or team
We don't
books.
want to be setting in cons like DC did last year,
Oh God,
getting
yeah.
our asses chewed for not having any female not having any female heroes. So let's put some books out
And see what happens.
and see what happens.
Yeah,
Now, granted, Marvel's notorious for canceling the daylights out of their female titles after not much time. Lots of times it
that's
sure
true.
seems like, but
That's true.
and I think they went, hey, we had this mini series that was female centric. Let's call Cullen Bunn up and go, hey, you want to maintain this story? Defenders, the actual regular Defenders book is done. Let's make this book and kind of tie the two things together. Have it be a Defenders book, but at the same time be female centric. So we're going to give it that fearless thing from the whole Fearless miniseries. Hey, this all works out. You put it together.
Uh-huh.
I wish they'd tell us who else was in the damn book.
Well, yeah. Well, they'll tease that for the next couple months though. And they'll announce it as it goes on. As long as it doesn't spoil the surprise of the story. If anything does, but
Yeah.
but like I said, it comes out in February, so
That's not that far away.
February. So
That's solicitations in what, 2 weeks?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not in this month's preview, so
Well, it'll be like 2 weeks. We'll see the solicitations for it.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna check that book out.
Yeah. Yeah, I would too. Well, mostly, and it's not just because, I, it's not because of the female makeup of the comic necessarily. It's Colin Bunn
Hmm.
writing it.
Hmm.
That was the first draw to me.
Yeah.
Um, because his Sixth Gun stuff is really good. Now, I did not read Fearless. Is that what it was called? That 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 follow up to Fear itself. I think it was just called Fearless.
Is that
That
what it was? I
that
can't
12
remember.
issue thing.
I didn't read it
I didn't
either.
read that either because I was done. I know I read Fear itself, um, and just like AVX, I was disappointed
Yeah.
in how it all ended up. But it was an interesting story nonetheless, for what it was. But I had no desire, just like I didn't need to read A plus X that's come out of that.
Right.
I don't need to read the
Consequences.
spin-off stuff. It just doesn't interest me that much. So yeah, I missed that Fearless. So he wrote that one. Is that correct? Is
Correct.
that what you said? Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Even he wasn't a big enough draw for me to read
Yeah.
that. But in this case, because I've always liked Valkyrie for some reason,
Hmm.
and I will admit I was tempted to pick up Fearless just because that character was being featured.
Right.
But it wasn't enough of a draw. But so I'm really curious who else is going to be on here. I probably will check out the first issue, but it really depends on who the rest of the team is and why they're together, and
Right.
Colin Bunn's pretty good.
Hmm.
And Will Slinney, his arts that based on the stuff I looked up on the internet, from his Blogspot page,
Hmm.
he's pretty good. So
Yeah.
if he
Cool.
does the same kind of work on this book, it'll look pretty nice, I think.
Cool.
All right, so that's Marvel news number one. Travis, what was the other thing you wanted to bring up regarding Marvel?
Oh, of course, they're, I don't know if it's called their flagship or not. I kind of view it as being that. It's the first Marvel Now title to come out of there is the Uncanny Avengers, and the fact that after they released issue one, the massive delays that are being put on issue number two. I mean, if this is supposed to be the kickoff to their, great new thing, this whole Marvel Now, it's going to just, be such an awesome thing, revolutionizing comics for Marvel and all this other hype that's behind it. I guess to me feels pretty sad that there's like a 6+ week delay on the second issue. I mean, how can that be? I mean, if the second issue has already been delayed, what does that mean for it going forward as far as how potentially inconsistent that book is going to be? I mean, I haven't heard why there's that kind of delay on it, but it just to me just seems, unless one of the creators is like, in the hospital or something, I'm baffled as to why the second issue would have this kind of delay on it. I mean, I'll get. I mean, you know, shame on us for comparing the two, but I mean, at least DC had the foresight to make sure they were had 4 to 6 issues completely in the can before they started their relaunch of the stuff. I don't know. It just seems bad business, doesn't it?
So let me get this straight. You're complaining that Marvel's not double shipping that title.
Yeah, if they say I am, because I'm not getting it, so I don't care. No, my issue is the fact is that it should be better organized than that. It's not the fact I'm complaining about it being double shipped, because that does burn me that it's double shipped. But how come if they state this is when the book's going to come out and whatnot, and it's a brand new book, brand new people on it and stuff, that with the second issue they're already off track. So how do I know when the hell the thing is coming out?
Yeah, good point.
Because for me, I didn't pre-order that thing. I was buying it off the shelf. Now I don't,
Oh, okay.
and I don't have a comic book store to go to. So for me, I have to actively go. Okay, if there's something off the shelf I'm buying, it's a specific effort for me to go and find that book. I don't know when it's coming out. So how do I know when to go and pick up the second issue? I'm going to miss the second issue probably. Not that I plan on picking it up now, to be honest, but if I was kind of interested in it, I would have to be keeping a whole hell of a lot closer track and trying to figure out when the hell the thing's coming out.
Hmm.
to me, it baffles me that they would hype this whole thing up and then issue number 2 they can't get out on time.
Well, yeah, especially the yeah, as you said, the flagship, the first title being produced. Yeah, that doesn't bode well.
Yeah. Doesn't to me. I have not a lot of confidence in that I'm going to get a consistent product because it's obviously not coming out consistently. And I understand there are delays, and I'm okay with those delays to some degree, but it just seems to me like I don't see with issue 2 that it could already be happening.
Yeah, down the road, maybe 4, 5, 6, something like that.
Right.
Sure, maybe that, but yeah, issue 2. It seemed like you would want to have at least the first 3 months, 4 months, maybe, have everything done and ready to go, ship on time to keep, get the readers into it and get them coming back. And yeah, that's this. I don't know what hopefully it's not, the issue of, the artist or even the writer for that matter, the color artist, whatever, anybody involved in the production. Hopefully, they're not having a bad time and, health wise or whatever. I hope it, because you don't want them,
Right.
you don't want those people suffering, just because you're not getting your, or us complaining because they're not delivering something on time for us. But yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah. Either that or it's at a trickling. Wait a second, we don't know what we want to do. Let's slow this down.
Well, that I don't care about. If it's that, then yeah, I'll complain to everybody. Poor editorial. Okay, so let me ask you this then, Travis. And I don't know how much we want to get into this, but it's having gone through now the relaunch of DC Comics, the New 52, and everything leading up to that, and then of course, reading through it over the past year plus, right? Mm-hmm. And then Marvel doing their own relaunch, whatever Marvel Now stuff. It's basically a relaunch. They just didn't do the same exact thing that DC did.
Sure.
But
they made a bunch of number ones, yeah.
Yeah. But it's the same. It's the same tactic, I guess. They're trying to get new readers. They're get people excited about their books and buy them. It's the same thing. DC Marvel did the same thing. They just did it in slightly different ways. Right. Okay. Now I'm sure people who have listened to us talk, we both been very honest. We're more DC centric in our tastes for the most part, right? Mm-hmm. So given that, I'm sure people will say, well, that's just because you're a DC guy, but it seems like to me, based on I follow a bunch of people on Twitter. I read a bunch of stuff online. I talk to you. I talk to other people that read comics, and it just seems like. And I'm not trying to knock Marvel here, okay? This is just a perception that I have. It seems like that the Marvel Now initiative doesn't seem to be as exciting to the fans as perhaps the New 52 was for DC. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think so. I mean, and obviously we have like you said, we have our biases, but I talk with lots of people who are much bigger Marvel fans than they are DC. I mean, some of the other people I hang out with online and talk to, I'm called the DC guy because they're all Marvel guys. Mm-hmm. So, and there's not, they're picking up the books they're picking up, but there doesn't seem to feel like there's the same media blitz that there was with the DC stuff. Because they're creating a bunch of number ones, and a lot of us comic fans see that as kind of almost a cynical, oh, okay, so it's just a bunch of new number ones. They're just putting number ones on it because they know that creates sales, but it's not like they're putting out anything new. It's the same stuff. They just moved the same creative teams around to different things, but it's not new. And so I don't know if there's as much excitement around it. But I don't hear people talking about it in the same way. Other than the new whatever that somebody's doing, so people are checking it out for that, but there's not the same. I don't see stuff outside of the comic book community talking about the Marvel Now in general. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I haven't been driving to work and have NPR tell me that anything about Marvel Now, and I distinctly remember going to work, listening to NPR, and having NPR tell me that the entire DC universe the plug was being pulled on it, and the whole thing was being rebooted. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
Yeah. The just recently, I either listened to a podcast or I read an article online. I can't remember which one it was now, so I can't cite the source. So I apologize for that. But um, the person or persons having this discussion or writing about it were talking about how Marvel has not. Oh, I think it was a CGS episode. Anyway, I believe they were talking about how Marvel doesn't seem to be promoting this in any way other than to fandom, to the people who already read their stuff.
Right.
So
They're not trying to increase the base.
yeah, then why do what they're doing?
Because number one, sell. Their sales go up because of that.
Sure, short term, yes.
Well, right, but that's what matters right now. That's what matters right now. I don't think they have a long term vision to say, ooh, we're going to add comic book readers to the comic book universe. I don't think they're worried about that. They're just worried about, for at least the time being, pulling market share away from DC, so they keep getting, so they can say, go to their bosses and say, look, Disney, we're number one. Now, I think is going to be the important thing. I was kind of surprised. I have a video a while ago where I was saying I didn't believe that I thought the beginning of the Death of the Family, the Batman books, would still outsell Uncanny Avengers number one. I was wrong, because the Uncanny Avengers number one came out basically about the same time that the end of Avengers versus X-Men and all that stuff all ended, and for the week of, was that October? Marvel, got sales back. They had the number one in sales. They had number one market share, and they had 5 or 6 of the top 10 books were their books, and their books beat out Batman number 13. I didn't think that was going to happen, but it did. So I mean, it shows it's successful. So they're just going to keep sliding all these number ones in, even though they're the same titles that have always been there, but now they're number one, because you're going to get people who are going to buy them because they're number ones. I mean, CBR has a poll right now that is, it's 3 questions, and the 3 questions are, what is it? Let me can't remember exactly what the question is. Having to do with number ones. It's how important is it for a comic book series to reach high milestone numbers, right? And your choices are, it's very important, legacy matters, and I love number ones, keep them coming, and the story is everything, numbers don't matter. And I was surprised at how many people seem to be picking number ones.
Really?
It's not the predominant thing. Legacy matters is the predominant one. But the fact that anybody would click, I love number ones, let's give me number ones, to me is ridiculous.
I don't get that. What would you choose out of those 3, Travis?
Story.
Yeah, me too.
I mean,
I don't care if it's number 1 or number 300.
Right. If it's a good story, that's all that matters to me.
Yeah.
Huh. I mean, I'm not against the numbering system, but at the same time, I think the numbering system was proven. It's been proven that the numbering is kind of an illusion anyway. They put whatever number they want to on the books.
Yeah, that's true.
If they get near a milestone, suddenly it goes back to its old numbering, so you can have a Wonder Woman number 600 or whatever.
Yeah, Detective Comics 1000. Did you hear that they were going to, commemorate that in some way? They didn't say what, but they would recognize the fact that Detective Comics had been published up to 1,000 issues. So. Yeah.
Well, I can see whenever it hits that issue, they just put 1,000 on it, as opposed to, instead of it being issue 20 or whatever it's going to be, it'll be issue 1,000, and then it'll go back to whatever. I mean, that's just like throwing those 0 issues in the middle of in the middle of the count.
Or any of the
Marvel
months with Marvel, yeah.
With their point whatever.
Oh God.
So obviously numbering doesn't really matter, other than to try and hopefully tell you what order you're supposed to read the damn story in if you're reading it. I mean, that's
right.
Otherwise it doesn't. The numbering is irrelevant. So
okay.
Other than from a business standpoint, everybody goes out and buys the number ones.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just talked to guys yesterday, on a Google Hangout, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm buying all those number ones, and I'm like, why? If they're books you're not going to be interested in, because it's the number one.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I mean, I guess in the hopes that maybe it might be the next, Walking Dead or whatever. You buy the number one, everything that comes out. That way, you've at least got the investment of whatever might be the next great thing. But
That's
look how many years it took for Walking Dead to suddenly be that valuable.
well, and that's only because he got a TV development deal.
Right.
That's
Right.
and it was good enough that it's got some critical acclaim and it's got some viewership.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. It's not that it's not a good comic. Well, and the fact it had an extremely small print run.
Mm-hmm.
These number ones are not going to have a small print run.
Well, but even 10, 20 years down the line, is Walking Dead number one going to maintain that value? I would guess not.
I don't know.
I think that's a flash in the pan. I'm not saying that Walking Dead is not good. It is, because I read the comic, I read the trades. It's a great comic, but I don't think that the value for those single issues are going to maintain over time.
Right.
It's not an Action Comics number one. It's not a Amazing Fantasy 15. Things like that.
I don't know.
So that's just my.
I question whether that one will maintain its value.
and I'm kind of a hypocrite too. I'm agreeing with you about this whole number one thing is not important, but at the same time, if a particular comic reaches a milestone issue number, I tend to want to buy those. Like I'm getting Spider-Man 700. Not because it's the end of the run of that Spider-Man title, but just it's a 700 issue. I want to see what they're going to do with it. It's like getting like an anniversary issue or something. Like
Sure.
when they did Detective 526. That was the 500th issue of Batman, right? Or I hope I'm getting those numbers right. I'm pulling them out of my muddled brain. So, but things like that. So I tend to want to buy those things. So.
Another thing I was just thinking about that we haven't heard, or at least I haven't heard, maybe you have, is I haven't heard them having to go back and print more Uncanny Avengers.
Oh, what?
When those first DC books came out, the next month we were already hearing that they were doing second runs of Action Comics, of Justice League, and some of those books. Is that because DC put out a small print run, and Marvel anticipated lots of sales, and so they put out a whole bunch?
That could be, yeah. Good point. I don't know, but I think you're right. I haven't heard of a
sales wise. Don't you get more sales if you are putting out there, like, gosh, we've sold so many, we're having to do second print runs, 3 print runs. I mean, hell, some of those titles 5, 6 reprints, and because then it keeps people excited. Those books must be good if they're having to reprint that many times. Those books must be good books, right? But I haven't heard that with the Uncanny Avengers.
I don't know about your premise there, and I'm not sure if you're being facetious, but just because they keep reprinting the title doesn't mean much other than they sold out the print run, whatever that number happens to be. Maybe the fourth printing of Justice League was only 400 copies. I don't know what the number is, but
right. But I guess in my brain, my first thought in my brain is that, wow, that must be selling well, or somebody screwed up when they did the print.
Sure, you can make that assumption, yeah.
That's the assumption I'm making.
Yeah.
And I just think it's curious. We haven't heard that about the Marvel book.
Yeah, that's true.
And I wonder why.
Well, is it? Yeah, but is it? Maybe they did, and we just don't pay attention to that because it's Marvel.
Oh no, I'm watching.
Okay,
stuff.
all right, because I don't.
I don't
pay attention. I don't pay attention to DC either. So.
Yeah, just because I don't read a bunch of the books doesn't mean I don't keep track of. The industry is important to me. It's important to me as just a general comic book reader. So I try to pay attention to everything that's going on as best I can. I mean, so I pay attention to what Marvel's up to as much as anything else. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the only reason I knew about the DC stuff is because they were getting 4th, 5th, 6th reprintings.
Uh-huh.
And that amazed me. You get a second reprinting, yeah. Third, well, that's kind of interesting, but that twice as many as that.
Right.
Wow.
5 months later, they're still reprinting some of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know when I'm doing my my monthly catalog of comics on the service that I use, and because I still have that title in as part of my pull list. It brings in all the variants and all the reprints, right? And I see issue number 1 for this title. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, all right. Well, let's move on. I have a bunch of just little DC stuff, and then we'll end it on a high note or a loud note. I don't know which one this would be. But let's start off with some DC stuff. First of which is the. Did you see this, Travis? DC is now offering their digital comics, not just the trades, but their monthly issues on all the major comic book distributors.
Yeah, you can get a subscription. You can
Yeah,
actually do a subscription feed.
yeah. So
That's kind of
iBookstore, Nook, and Kindle.
yeah, that's kind of cool
Yeah.
if you're into digital comics.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. I I figured you'd say something along those lines.
Oh,
But it's still neat that now they're you can get if you're like you said if you are into digital comics, you can get them in all these different platforms.
right. That's awesome. I mean, don't get me wrong at all. I think that's not my personal cup of tea, but that I think that is really cool. I mean, if I was a digital collector, that would be great. I mean, for me, just the idea of being able to hit a button and have it know that every month those comics are just going to show up. My Batman's going to show up, and whatever is just going to be there. So I wake up one morning, I turn it on, and it happens to be Wednesday, Comic Book Wednesday, and bang, all my new issues are right there. That does sound pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
And but the one thing I didn't get from that initial article, and I didn't go back and I wasn't able to research this before we started recording, was how this affects Comixology. Because the first thing I did, because I use Comixology for the digital comics that I buy, and I have a Kindle Fire, which I read those comics on, and so that's the first thing I did after this announcement. So this came out, I think, in the morning. I can't remember exactly, but then I waited several hours, and then I that evening I went back and turned on my Kindle Fire and opened up Comixology just to see, because for some weird reason, I don't know, I've never been able to find the right answer. Maybe it's out there and I just haven't found it, but you could not directly purchase DC comic trades or issues for that matter through the Comixology app on the Kindle Fire, which is the stupidest ass thing.
So how did you go to Comixology and then go to a DC page and then get
I have to do it online or through like I have an iPhone now, so I can do it through the iOS app, but not through the Kindle Fire Comixology app. It's just the weirdest thing. I don't know why they did it that way. But I wanted to check specifically that evening if I could now buy DC Comics directly from the Comixology app on the Kindle Fire. And as of Friday evening, I still could not. Maybe something's changed because I haven't checked it all weekend, but I look forward to that. But it doesn't matter because I usually buy my digital comics through the portal at DCBS because I get that discount.
Discount, right?
So anyway, I just thought it was neat. They're expanding their line through these other platforms. That's great.
Smart.
Yeah, exactly. So what's Marvel doing?
They'll follow suit.
And I just related to that. Yeah, I'm sure. But Dark Horse, was it Dark Horse that put out an Android app for their comic store? I think it was Dark Horse. Somebody put out an Android app.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
For their comic store. So I thought, more people are doing it. I like you, I wish that the formats weren't proprietary, so that I could read these comics on any device, anytime, and not be tied to any one app.
Right.
And when that happens, I might go to digital, Travis. I just might. But that day is not yet.
And then I'll never talk to you again.
Oh yeah, then we'll get the whole print versus digital.
You scum, you digital scum. I love y'all. Don't get me wrong. Go digital. That's fine with me. Just don't hurt my paper comics, and we'll all be okay.
You scum, but I love you. All right, let's move on and then to the next topic. These are real quick, I think. But I found them interesting. Did you see, Travis, that Guillermo del Toro is, quote, "We are discussing a Justice League Dark movie"? Did you see?
Yeah.
What the heck? Justice
Now,
League.
did that? I mean, has DC kind of said that
Oh no.
discussion is going on too?
And that's just it. What is this we? Who is this we he's referring to? I mean, you obviously make the assumption that
Now,
he's
because I
referring
mean,
to DC, right? Or
because you can make a statement. I want to make a Justice League Dark type movie, but what does that mean? That
what's
could
that?
just mean I want to make a movie that has to do with a group of magically powered people
Mm-hmm.
fighting against some other magically powered thing.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that it has anything to do with the DC universe at all, right?
That's true. But he did specifically talk about his love of Swamp Thing, and he mentioned Constantine.
Which of course Swamp Team's not even in Justice League Dark,
I
but
know, but I'm sure that he would put him in some way.
I'll watch the hell out of that movie. Just putting that out there.
Yeah.
I like him as a director. I like the stuff he's done. I like the look and the feel of the things that he does. So I'd be like, first in line to be getting tickets and watching it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. I just wanted to check the pulse, check your pulse on this whole Justice League Dark movie concept.
I like the Justice League Dark. I like the characters. I like the DC's magical people. So if somebody's gonna crank out a movie that's got those people in it, I'm excited about it. I may watch it and hate it because it gets treated poorly, but it'll look cool. If he's doing it, it's gonna look cool regardless.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay.
And I thought because I mean he has some superhero-ish type comic book experience with the Hellboy, and I thought those movies were great representations of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like he's somebody who's capable of interpreting those characters properly.
Yeah, I agree.
So
from one Justice League to another, did you see this, Travis? The Justice League of America title that's coming out soon will have state cover variants, so you can
I'm getting
get
them all.
What?
I said I'm getting them all.
You're joking.
Yes, I'm joking.
You had me there for a second. I thought you were actually going to get them all.
I want the Puerto Rico one.
The Puerto Rico one, and yeah, with the addition of Washington D.C. and Puerto Rico, that is 52 variants, state variants. Yeah. So, well, state. I guess you have to say state in quotes because those last two are not. But I actually okay. I normally don't go for the whole variant cover thing, but I actually may order the Idaho variant for that title. They got me. They got me hook, line, and sinker.
Well, see, here's the thing: and I mean, so what do you think of the whole this variant cover thing? Because it's different than the other variant cover type.
Yeah.
Because normally variant covers are kind of an incentive thing, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Lots of times, if you're going to get the whatever variant, it's more expensive. It's $5 more, $12 more, $25, $100, and the stores that are selling those aren't they kind of have their hands tied? They have to buy. They have to order so much product to get the variant cover.
Like a 1 in 100 variant or a 1 in 1,000,
right?
Whatever. Yeah.
Right. But that isn't the case of these.
No, you can get all of them without it being an incentive.
Right. Or just get, like, if your comic book shop is in Idaho, for instance, you could just get Idaho ones if you think that's what everyone's going to want to buy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's a different kind of
It's interesting, isn't it, that they decided to pursue it in this way? Yeah. I'm not sure how successful it will be, and I don't know how much it will generate sales.
There's some independent creators, some freelancers who are a bit concerned about this deluge of variant covers, that their books are going to disappear on the shelves because you're going to be because there are going to be places where they're going to put out all 52 covers.
I'd like to know how they're going to do that.
Because there are people who are going to buy all 52 covers.
No, I know, but I'm just thinking in terms of shelf space. Comic shops aren't usually that big for the most part, right? So how are they going to put 52?
I don't know. Depends on
covers of this title plus the other one.
What's your sense of how you think that's going to how it's going to sell? Is it going to be something everybody's really excited about?
I don't see that. I think it's an interesting idea from a publishing standpoint, but I really don't see that turning into sales, or at least great sales.
I just
for
want to be
DC.
the person in charge of the printing of those things because that has to be a nightmare. Okay, because don't take this personally, living in the state that you live in,
Yeah, yeah.
but how many copies of the Idaho flag one do you think they're going to put out?
Hey, maybe you're right. Maybe though that will become increase in value because there's so few Idaho covers printed.
Yeah, because we're all going to be clamoring for those damn Idaho covers. Gotta have my Gem State cover. Come on.
Gem State cover, JLA Gem State. There you go. I
See,
want it. I'm getting it.
I'm just curious because I can't imagine that they're printing as many of those as they'll print of some things.
Yeah,
I don't know.
California or New York or yeah, any of the
And if
the
you're
big
one of
states.
those people, who thinks you have to have every one of those covers, that could be interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I
My
think
thought
I
is,
think the way
my
though,
thought is I wait 2 years, I wait for all those to be in the bargain bin somewhere, and then I get the whole collection. Or attempt to get the whole collection. I'm just saying.
yeah, or wait for the inevitable trade collection, right? So
Well,
they'll do the first 6 issues of Justice League of America, and you get
52 extra
all
pages.
52. I can't see them actually doing that, but yeah,
No.
yeah. Okay, well there you go. You can get your own state. Well, oh no, wait. Let me just add. Because you were talking about how they would print those and
Uh-huh.
deal with that. But the way that they're doing it is it's the same cover. It's just the flag portion
Right.
is different. So I think from a printing perspective, from a cost printing perspective, that's they still have to print different covers, but
Right.
they minimized the impact. I think doing it with that flag thing as opposed to having
Oh, sure.
each state having its own slightly different cover. As far as the images on it. So I don't. I barely know the printing business.
I'm just curious because I'm going to get at least the first issue of that whole thing, and of course I'm ordering mine through Discount Comic Book Service.
Hmm.
I wonder how the ordering is going to work for them.
I'm wondering the same thing. Yeah. Will I be able to get my Idaho cover?
Or it'll be totally random. And if it is totally random, I do hope I get the Puerto Rican one just because that cracks me up.
Oh my God.
What a
Hey,
one.
did you see? I read an article just in the last couple of days that Puerto Rico is pushing for statehood again.
Yeah, it's on the. Well, it's all it takes now is an act of Congress. Congress just has to say, yeah, we want them as a state, and they'd be a state.
Hmm.
Actually, the one I really would like to have, I think, is I want the DC one.
Yeah.
Well, think about what they are. They are the kind of the government's answer to the Justice League, aren't they supposed to be kind of be?
Right.
Well, DC, that makes the most sense then, doesn't it?
Sure. Are you making some sort of connection between Washington D.C. and DC?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm
All
just saying, I want the Washington D.C. flag, the state of the Columbia one, right? That's the one I want because I'm assuming that being the center of the United States government and whatnot, that'd be the one.
Okay.
Actually, I really don't care.
But if you did, you would want to get the DC one.
Well, yes.
All right.
Or the Puerto Rican.
So you're not going to get the Washington one?
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't
All
care.
right. Good Lord, I thought we would talk about that for like 1 minute and move on, but here we are. Speaking of Justice League of America, let's talk about the Green Arrow news. Since
Yeah.
you're a Green Arrow guy, Jeff Lemire, starting with issue number 17, will be writing that title, along with the iVampire artist Mr. Sorrentino doing the art.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Oh, well, first, sad to hear that he's leaving iVampire because I love the art on iVampire. I'm excited. Okay. Green Arrow, favorite character in the DC universe. I quit collecting that series.
Mm-hmm.
With the Zero issue. I quit collecting. I will be picking it back up again when these guys get on it. Lemire is billing it as him wanting to be a street level hero, closer to the Longbow Hunter and Mike Grell type series of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Which as a whole I like that. I like the series then. Um, and I still have my doubts in some way though, because I really do feel like the New 52 kind of broke the character. I mean, they in making him much younger and all the stuff, they kind of stripped away from some stuff away from Ollie that fundamentally made him Ollie.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious to see if Lemire can bring some of that stuff back.
Yeah.
You know, what's going to be? How are they going to write it? Because right now he's not a street level hero at all. You know, he's a jet setting, hop around, to China and to all these different places, and he's the head of Q Corps and all this stuff. How are they going to write him to fundamentally bring him down to that level? What's going to be the inspiration that puts him down to being a street level kind of a guy, especially when they also have the character, and this is where I think editorial gets involved, especially when they also have the character in the Justice League of America,
exactly.
Which is going to be, I mean, I understand that the Justice League of America is going to be a superhero group fighting for America and America's issues, but that's not street level. Mm-hmm. Not to say that they can't do both. But I'm really curious to see how they do that. Mm-hmm. And like I said, because I'm such a Green Arrow fan, I will go back to picking it up at least initially, just to see if they could actually fix that character.
Yeah.
And I'll be thrilled to death if they can.
Well, and have you seen the preview art that Sorrentino has put out there? Doesn't it remind you of doesn't it evoke images of the Arrow TV series?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
It's going to have some of that in it anyway, because they'd be crazy not to cash in on that while they can. Yeah, I know there's the Arrow comic.
Yeah.
But marketing wise, you want to transition them into an ongoing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Arrow, the comic book Arrow, isn't ongoing, is it?
I don't know, actually.
I don't know either. I don't think it is. I mean, okay. I guess so certainly I will try it because they can't do any more damn damage than they already have.
Hey, don't say that. Don't tempt fate.
Oh, dude, there's just no way.
Hold on, I'm looking up because I thought I saw the Arrow comic in previews.
Mm-hmm.
For the print edition.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, really kind of ticked me off. I'll probably take this out of the episode, but I started getting the Amikami Girls stuff because Jimmy Palmiotti was really promoting it, and yep. Didn't Amanda Conner do the first?
She was doing the Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
one.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I started getting those, and then I remember him saying something on Twitter about. Because someone asked him, are these going to be in print? He's like, well, it depends on the sales, right? Well, then, several weeks later, I see that it's, the Wonder Woman digital comic is being collected into that one issue. So I'm like, okay. So I continue buying the Amikami Girls stuff digitally, just because I was interested in the story and the art and stuff, and then they keep printing them, so I stopped. I stopped buying them digitally. Because I don't want to pay it twice. So anyway, let's throw that. Okay, so yes, Arrow number 3, print version. Doesn't say that it's like a miniseries or anything.
Mm.
It's 40 pages for $3.99.
Well, good value for page anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Yeah, I thought I knew you would be interested in that. I figured that you might pick that up too. I was just curious.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on. Speaking of issue number 17, there's another issue number 17 where a new person is coming on to this title, and that's going to cause me to pick it up. And this is Keith Giffen returning to the Legion of Superheroes. And you and I, Travis, had a quick conversation over Twitter about this. And what did you ask me again?
What difference is this going to make? If it has the same writer on it, what difference is this going to make?
Yeah.
Because the story is still the same story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so two responses to that. One is I like Keith Giffen. I like his art. So that alone is going to get me back into Legion of Superheroes, even though I've been thoroughly disappointed in Paul Levitz's return to that series.
So you're telling me you're buying it just for the art?
Well, initially, yes. Point number two is that when Keith Giffen and Paul Levitz worked together, back in the 80s on this title, they Giffen had more of an input into the story at a certain point in the run, and
Uh-huh.
then once Paul left the title, and then they relaunched it the 5 years later run that
Uh-huh.
Giffen did. So Giffen was behind that. It was his baby at that point. So what I'm hoping here is that Giffen will have more input into the character development, the storyline, to bolster what we get from Levitz right now. So
Yeah, because pulling somebody from 18 years ago on that title has worked out so well so far.
what? Say that again?
Because pulling somebody who used to work on that title 18 years ago to now has worked out so well so far.
Ye of little faith, come on. I hear you. I
Well, I
do.
guess my crankiness is I've tried jumping on Legion so many times and have yeah, been woefully disappointed every time I've ever jumped on Legion.
Oh.
That there's nothing you can do now at this point to. Oh, wait, well, that's not true. There are people if they were on it, I would pick it up
Who?
because they
Who?
don't.
Name names.
Um, well, art wise, if you threw like J.H. Williams or something like that on it, I'd be interested.
Wow.
Right now I have faith in trying anything that Scott Snyder writes. So if he were to suddenly write one, I would
God,
jump
could you
on it.
imagine Scott Snyder doing a Legion book? That blows my mind.
I don't know. I'm curious because I haven't seen him do a team book.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see any team book.
Trying to figure out what he would do. No,
Right.
wait, hold on. You say, okay, he hasn't done, okay, yes, he hasn't done a quote unquote team book, but I mean, the Batman family shows up in his stuff all the time. That's essentially a team.
There's a huge difference between briefly writing a few panels that have Dick or Damien or those people on it and trying to maintain a cast of how many for the Justice, for
Legion. Oh, sure. Yeah.
There's a big difference. Not saying he can't do it. I'm just saying we've not seen him do it.
Yeah, you're right.
And I would pick it up. I'd pick it up to read it. I think of who else off the top of my head I would be interested in. I don't know, but I like Levitz as a guy. The two books that he's writing right now, to me, they both just feel really tired. That and World's Finest.
Yeah.
Just really tired.
Yeah.
Just really tired and kind of just stuck in, one cycle and just can't seem to branch out, move forward, or do something.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which is, and we've talked about this before. It's unfortunate because Levitt's work on that Huntress miniseries was pretty good,
right?
Don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then as they slowly exposed her to being Helena,
mm-hmm.
he slowly, instead of keeping her with an edge, in my opinion, and stuff, they've slowly drifted more back to the Earth to.
That's true. The Huntress that we saw in that miniseries and the Huntress we see now, World's Finest, not the same character.
Yep.
Yeah, that's very true.
So.
All right. Well, anyway, I'm excited about it. I can't wait to see what Giffen brings to the book, and I'm just a Legion fan.
I definitely think it'll improve. If their work relationship is going to be, Giffen helping plot out kind of what's going on and whatnot, so he has some level of that. He's going to bring excitement to the book because he likes the kind of old school, dynamic stuff that makes a comic fun as a superhero comic book. So. Yeah.
Hey, speaking of that, I didn't tell you about this, but are you going to get the Threshold title that he's working on that was in previews this month?
Oh, I don't know.
Kind of the space opera type
thing?
thing?
I haven't decided. Parts of it sound interesting, and parts of it I'll probably pick up the first issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to get it for sure. Although it's got backup story art by Scott Collins, and he's not my favorite, so we'll see.
Yeah.
And it's it's 40 pages for $3.99 for Threshold #1. So, anyway, we'll see. All right, I think that's it, Travis. We have no more news to discuss, right?
Nope, nothing at all.
Of course, I jest because I wanted to get your thoughts on this. This was the big news coming out this last Friday. and that is Hellblazer will be ending with issue 300.
What?
Did you not know that?
I didn't hear that. Oh God, no. I've been ranting for what day did that? I don't know what day that came out. They said they were going to do that, but I've been ranting literally every day since then. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Did we not discuss last episode or the last episode? No, it had to be the last episode because that was the first episode you've been back in a
yeah.
while. Because I mentioned that I was going to start getting Hellblazer at episode 300 or
So this is your
issue
fault?
300. Yeah, it's my fault. But didn't you also predict, or you were concerned that maybe that was the last issue?
Yeah, I said that.
Holy crap, man!
Yeah.
You should go to Vegas.
And they're basically doing exactly kind of what I was been suspicious when the relaunch first hit and they put a version of Constantine in the new in the new DCU. I was really worried then.
Yeah,
I was really worried then. I panicked and I was like, oh man, this is going to be, and I'm like, there's a big difference between the two characters. And if you're currently reading both and you disagree with me, send somebody an email so I know, so I can argue the point with you further.
and send that email to longboxreview@gmail.com.
Please, and it'll get to me.
Yeah.
Because I would love to have a further conversation on it if you don't think the two are different from each other, because they are much different from each other. And I can enjoy both for different reasons. But I enjoy the one that's in the DC proper mostly because I know there's the real version in Vertigo. So I don't have a problem. The real version, yeah. Because I don't have a problem with the one that's in the DC universe because I know the real one's there in the Vertigo. But when that whole thing first happened, I was really worried. And then it didn't, and months kept going by and there was nothing about it. And I thought, okay, this might be fine. And then a month or so ago, it occurred to me that we're creeping up on this 300th issue. And it kind of in the back of my head, it started thinking, you know what? Maybe they're just holding out for this milestone, make a big deal out of it, and then pull the plug on it. I didn't think they'd actually put a version of his own comic in DC proper.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so disappointed. I mean, I passed the yelling and screaming stage. If you want to see that, you can go to my YouTube channel. My latest What the Fugue. I scream and literally and rant and rave, like a lunatic fanboy. I'm past that now, but I'm still extremely disappointed. I understand kind of from a marketing standpoint why they're doing what they're doing, but I think ultimately it's going to fail. And I think ultimately there will be no solo book for that character.
Are you going to pick it up?
No. Yes. No.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll probably pick up the first issue just to look at it. But part of me says that I don't want to pick it up.
Mm-hmm. Now, out of protest or
out of protest, I don't like the character. I don't care for the character in the DC universe. How he is portrayed in Justice League Dark, I don't particularly care for him. He's got a few bits and pieces of him that are like the Vertigo version of the character, but there's large chunks that are missing, and those large chunks that are missing are some of the things that I like most about the character and some of the more redeeming things about the character and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He's very shallow in the DC universe. Now, maybe a solo title will flesh that stuff out so he's not quite so shallow.
Uh-huh.
And I don't say shallow as in they haven't developed his character. I'm saying his character is shallow in the DC universe. But that's how he feels to me. And now, whereas the character's always been kind of a prick to some degree, but he's a charming prick in his Vertigo title, and he's not really charming in my opinion in the.
Not as, yeah, I'd agree with that. And I don't currently read Hellblazer, so I don't have the insight or the experience with the title or the character that you do. But
mm-hmm.
But did you not read Justice League Dark Zero?
Yeah.
See, I thought that they did a nice job at providing some depth of character to Constantine in that issue.
I thought it was kind of lame.
How can we read the same thing and have two totally different opinions about it?
My brain works differently than yours, and I'm reading the good book. I'm reading the good book. See, in
So by
comparison,
comparison, it pales.
it does.
Yeah.
He's just a weaker character. He's just a weaker character. He's a shadow of himself from the and just you go and you look at like Twitter, for instance, and the response from writers and creators when they heard the book was closing. How many people went, "Oh man, I wanted to write the real John Constantine."
Mm-hmm.
Even people who are writing the character now in the DC proper, who have gotten to write him there, were bummed because they wanted to write the real, Constantine.
And there was someone on Twitter. I can't remember I can't remember who it was now. But they said something about it's too bad all the people that are complaining about the cancellation of Hellblazer wasn't reading it right now. And so that, of course, that implies that sales had something to do with this.
But that doesn't make sense, because if it was sales, if it was tanking because of sales, they wouldn't be spending money to put the book in a new place. They'd just freaking cancel it.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I kind of felt that premise was a bit suspect, but I did not look up the sales numbers for that book to see if if they were really low or if they've been dropping drastically recently or what.
The sales, no, I'd stay constant. It's been pretty consistent for years on end.
Mm-hmm.
It's not huge, but that book's never been huge. It sells in trades, and they finally are fixing their trades. I mean, part of their trade sales problem is they never numbered the thing. So you as a reader, if you didn't understand it, you didn't know. I mean, not that you have to read them in order, but the guy has lived a long life in these 300 issues, and stuff that happened, 40 issues ago do sometimes come back to have some bearings on why he does what he's doing now.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, if you wanted to read them all, it would be beneficial to read them in chronological order. But hell, if you know what that is, but when you just go to look at the trades, well, they're finally reissuing the books with an actual number on the spine, so you can actually read them in order if you want to. That's been a mistake all along. But the trade sales of that book are excellent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's why it's making it to 300.
Yeah.
The book doesn't go to 300 because it sucks.
Yeah. They should put out an omnibus version of this.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
I would get those.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. But it just frustrates me. I know it's all a sales thing and whatnot. I am in deep fear, though, that once the book gets to the DC proper, it'll be like a lot of the other dark and somewhat quirky and offbeat and not superhero books, and it will it'll be at the bottom of the sales, and inevitably it'll get canceled. It may take a year, it may take 18 months, but it'll be gone, and then there'll be nothing. That character, besides Justice League Dark, it won't exist.
Or, Travis, it could reverse the opinion of many detractors and be a well-sold, interesting comic book.
Yeah, you keep drinking that Kool-Aid.
Well, it's possible, right?
It is. You're right. You're right.
You get the right creative team on there.
It could just be incredible. But why couldn't they have both books?
Yeah.
Why can't they have this? Because there's no way they could say, oh, it's going to keep its edge. My ass that it's going to keep the edge that it has in the Vertigo title. Because they're not going to, despite the fact they don't have any comics code to follow and whatnot, they are not going to put the stuff that is in the Vertigo book. They are not going to put that in a book that just sits on the shelf for anybody to pick up.
Right.
It's not going to happen. Not that I need cussing, not that I need, tits and ass, not that I need all that stuff for it to be a good book. But I like the possibility of, when you open that book up, God knows what is on the next page. Mm-hmm. Whatever horrific thing is going to happen, who knows what it's going to be. Plus the fact, this is the same complaint I had with when they pulled the plug on all of the 52 comics and then restarted them. They strip away some of the things that actually make the character really good. I'm reading the book right now. He's married, and his wife is absolutely awesome. She is probably right now my favorite secondary comic book character in comics, as far as a being the secondary person that's a comic. She is an awesome character. She works for the guy. They work together. And I would have swore up and down there's no way in hell you could constantly be married. It would be a disaster. oh, this works great. The creative team that's on the book right now is absolutely perfect for the book, and they're not even moving the creative team. They're those people are all gone to do I don't know what, and we get a whole new team of people
Mm-hmm.
to write a PG version of Constantine.
Yeah. Travis? Did you ever see the Keanu Reeves movie?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so I did too, but I in my mind, and again, I haven't read Hellblazer in many years, um, but in my mind, I'm kind of equating, like you said, the PG-13 version
Mm-hmm.
of Constantine. I kind of see that that's kind of what the movie did to some degree.
Yeah. Well, that movie, there are parts of it I really like and parts of it that annoyed me. The very beginning of that movie, I absolutely loved because the whole thing is shot. The camera angles they use and whatnot are very comic book oriented.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the angles going down through the apartment building and stuff, that was all great. That whole beginning part was perfect. That's the whole movie should have been like that, in my opinion. And then all of a sudden, it went from that to suddenly being more of an action film.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more of it, and that's what this comic, in my opinion, that's what the comic book's going to end up being too. I mean, even when you read Hellblazer, how much time was spent in quote unquote action?
Oh,
and how much time was spent
very little
speculation?
Yeah.
Well, but I think this book is going to be more action oriented because I don't think it'll unless all
you mean like the rest of the New 52?
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're going to use the same sales formula an idea formula of how they think the book should operate. I can't imagine that they won't, or it'll be an extreme anomaly if it isn't like all the other stuff. It doesn't have the same mandate from editorial that all the other books do. So it's not going to be the same beast. And of course, putting in the DC universe, you're going to they'll have Batman pop in, they'll have the Flash pop in, they'll have whatever, try and help, punch the sales up, and it just won't make sense. I mean, how big of a mess was, I didn't read it, so I don't really know, but my understanding is lots of people didn't like it. That whole after the brightest day thing, that whole thing was Swamp Man, and he was kind of there, and the superheroes were there, and I mean, that was kind of a mess, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. That was. Yeah, it was.
Constantine doesn't play well with others. The character just doesn't. He briefly plays well with others, but that's not what he's about. Like I said, I tolerate him in Justice League Dark because I like all the other characters, and I don't mind him in that setting and whatnot because I've always been able to to refer back to where I think the character really shines at, and I think they're taking that all away.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I could be pleasantly surprised. I pissed and moaned and ignored Batgirl after after they canned Cassandra Cain in it, and obviously the Brian Q. Miller run on that book with Stephanie Brown was absolutely outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
But
there you go.
But I think that is a rarity in it, and there's a lot more different stuff now.
And there's a lot more editorial direction, I'll say, control perhaps over these books at DC now. So I don't think you could get a Brian Q. Miller Batgirl title these days.
Nope.
All right, a Brian Q. Miller type Batgirl title, I should say.
But so I don't think this is going to be successful. I mean, I say I'm not going to pick it up. Who am I kidding? I'm going to pick it up because I want to see what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll pick up 2 or 3 issues. I won't just pick up one like I did with Batgirl before I make a judgment. But I just don't see how it's possible. I don't see how it's possible for them to have the comic that they have there. And it just irritates me to no end where they, Dan Didio comes out and says how they all love the comic. They think it's great, but they're going to pull the plug on it.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
Well, okay. Well, no, I think it does. From a business standpoint, from a DC business standpoint, they want everything within the same lanes. I'm trying to make a driving metaphor here, I guess, as opposed to this Hellblazer comic off on this off ramp, this parallel off ramp. I'm not making any sense here now, but I think from a business standpoint, it makes sense because you already have the Constantine character in the DCU proper. Whether you like him or not,
right.
He's there because they want to use it. They made that decision, right? So let's get rid of this other thing, even though it's great. Everybody agrees it's great, but it's not within the confines that they want to pursue as far as the DC universe goes. So from that perspective, it makes total sense to get rid of the Vertigo version.
So they can get that quick bump of sales because it's they're gonna because they will. The sales will be great to start out with because they'll get that quick bump and they'll go, oh look, it only sold 12,000 in a Vertigo tile and now it's selling 20,000
but
for the first month.
Sure, exactly. So yeah, second, third month sales, that's really what counts.
It'll drop down to the same amount of sales,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then it'll drop
Or
down to that because
fewer. Yeah, I bet it goes down.
You know, there's some people who aren't going to pick it up because it's not a Vertigo title.
See, and that kind of bothers me in the sense that and I mean no offense to you or any of the fans of the Hellblazer comic, I really don't, because I agree with you. It's a great character, and even though I've been reading it, you've been telling me about it, and I've been meaning to pick it up. I've just been waiting for the right jumping on point, essentially.
You got a jump on point.
And yeah, but hell, I don't even know where I was going with this now.
But shame on me for not giving this their.
Oh yeah. It's not fair, in some respects, because a lot of people are going to react negatively and not read this comic because of their love of this other version of it.
Uh-huh.
And I understand that, but at the same time, I feel kind of bad for the creative team that's coming onto this. They're going to get a lot of crap. And then just the idea of not supporting a comic just because one was. It's like not buying. The Gail Simone Batgirl title because you loved Brian Q. Miller's Stephanie Brown Batgirl title.
No, I'm more inclined not to buy it because I liked Oracle.
Or that, yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm just saying, I just feel bad for the creative team, and then also it's not fair to the character as far as trying to sell that product by DC. So.
Well, it's not fair. If we're talking fair, then that's the case. Fair is all perspective. It's not fair that they pulled the plug on it in the first place.
You're absolutely right.
They could have ran both damn comics if they wanted to be fair.
Yes.
They get what they want, and I could get what I want.
Exactly. You're right.
So, that's my only power as a purchaser and of DC products and of Vertigo products. The only power I really have, because writing them means shit, and when Emerald City Comic Con comes around in March, and I go to the Vertigo panel and I raise hell there, it won't mean shit. The only power I have is where I spend my money at and who else I can convince not to spend their money there.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to take it that personally, which I don't take it that personally, but because this leads back to at the beginning where I was talking about fandom and geekdom taking things personally, like they have some level of ownership of it, but I have all 296 issues of Hellblazer.
Yeah.
In singles, and it's something that I have. Anytime I've ever had the ability to collect comics since that book came out, I have collected that book, and I have pimped that book as much as I can, and any opportunity I get to. You go back and watch my 30 Days of Comics. It's one of my favorite characters and stuff. So yeah, I as a stupid fan, I have some level of investment in the book and in the character, and when you feel like the corporate office makes the decision to mess with it, it's pretty irritating.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So. Hey, it just occurred to me, Travis.
Mm-hmm.
While you were talking, I was flipping through the Vertigo section of previews. So given that now Hellblazer will be ending with issue 300. What does that mean for Vertigo?
Vertigo is, there's two things that are happening in my opinion. Vertigo is either going away slowly but surely, or it's becoming DC's version of Icon for Marvel, where it's just a place for their talent to write a more independent indie kind of feeling book without them going completely off the reservation.
Mm-hmm. But okay, I think I agree with that. But I'm looking at the previews, and other than some trades and stuff, what?
The only ongoing is like Saucer Country.
Well, you have the two Fables books, Fables and Fairest. So you got that franchise, if you want to call it that. You got Saucer Country,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got Unwritten, which
Mm-hmm.
is solicited issue 45. I don't know if this, like Bill Willingham said famously a couple cons ago that Fables is not going to end. Like many of the Vertigo titles over the years, like Sandman ended at 75. Things like that. Things where got a lot of critical and commercial success. They ended their runs, right?
Right.
Well, he came out and said, no, I'm doing this forever as long as DC will let me, right?
Right.
But I imagine that Unwritten may have a shelf life.
Mm-hmm.
Saucer Country, I would think too. Based on the story. I mean, they could do a lot. I mean, you could always do more with these stories, but I'm just thinking there's only really 1, 2, 3, if you count Ferris and Fables as one. Basically 3 titles at Vertigo right now, ongoing titles.
Yep.
Once
Everything else
Hellblazer ends.
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
What
Yep.
the hell? I
Yep.
would hate to lose Vertigo as an
Yeah.
imprint of DC
Yeah.
Comics.
Well, it's changing. So if it's going to stay, it's going to be this other little. It's going to be this other little thing. It's not going to be what it was. I mean, there's a lot of great history to Vertigo.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was one of the first places where creators could have some level of ownership over what they were producing.
Well, you remember back in the late 80s and into the 90s where there was all of these really interesting stories and some of them really bizarre.
Right. Oh, yeah.
At the same time, but all of these great stories that don't fit anywhere else, had an outlet through Vertigo.
Yeah, now it's called Image. I'm just saying.
Well, okay. I'll grant you that, but I would still hate to see Vertigo go, and I don't want it to turn into necessarily a clone of Icon either.
Right, but that's what it feels like. You look at what's coming out; it's these miniseries kind of things from Scott Snyder, Jeff Lemire. It's writers who are on their main titles who have a story idea, and so they're producing it through Vertigo because they're, I don't know. I don't know if those people have exclusives or whatnot with DC, but they're hanging with the DC imprint to some degree or other. Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, as much as I jokingly say that Image is is where all that stuff's going to, but there's a production level at Vertigo that is very high. It feels like, very rarely does Vertigo put out mediocre stuff. They don't put out a lot, but to me, it always feels like it's high quality literature kind of stuff to a large degree. And so I don't know, not to say that Image stuff is dumb or not,
no.
But it feels like right now Image is also going through this stage where they're producing everything they possibly can, throwing it all against the wall and seeing what sticks. Which is fine. Yeah, whatever. But I guess I have a larger faith in the Vertigo line. Hell, I know people who just they buy, they pretty much buy everything that Vertigo puts out because they know it's Vertigo and therefore it's going to be it's going to be a certain style, it's going to have a certain flavor, and it's going to have a certain quality to it.
Yeah, it has a name brand quality to it.
Right. Well, I don't know. To me, it seems scary, like it's going away.
Well, and we had that fear too back when they announced the New 52. That was besides, what are you going to do in the New 52? The second question usually asked was, what about Vertigo?
Right.
And they at that time they assured us, now Vertigo is still here. They're still going to do what they do best and all this stuff. But
they also assured us that they weren't going to move. They weren't going to move. They weren't going to move Hellblazer to the DCU.
Well, they didn't.
Well, yeah. After they moved Madame Xanadu and all those other people over. So Swamp Thing and everything, that was one of the people they weren't going to touch. But yeah, I don't know. And the other thing that's interesting is you start seeing Karen Berger, is that her name?
Berger, yeah.
You start seeing her name on editorial on books that are not in Vertigo.
Yeah.
So they're finding work for her that's not part of Vertigo. Which I think is a travesty. Oh, I think it's great they're finding her work, don't get me wrong. But I think at the same time, she deserves a lot of credit for an awesome place.
Almost single-handedly the credit too, as I understand it.
Yeah.
If she's off doing other things not Vertigo, then maybe this is the death knell for the Vertigo imprint. I don't know. I sure hope not.
Well, I think it's helping it when you start pulling these kind of, I mean, this has been a 25 years. By the time this thing gets the plug pulled on it, 25 years in a month, because it came out in January 1988 is when the first issue of Hellblazer came out.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's going away in February or something like that. Um, so, I guess now I can be depressed again for the rest of the day.
Sorry. What are those 5 stages of grief?
Is it too early to drink? No.
So it was anger, denial. Oh hell, I don't remember what they all were.
Yeah, I'll never get past the first 2 probably, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mean to depress you, Travis. I apologize.
That's right. It is what it is. You know what happens. I think it's funny. I didn't have near this big of a reaction to the rest of the DC universe having the plug pulled on it and being restarted, but I guess it's because I was teased into thinking that this wasn't going to get messed with. I think if it had gotten screwed with the same time everything else would, it wouldn't have bothered me near as much.
Okay. Oh, here, let me ask you this. So let's say, for whatever reason, they're going to cancel Hellblazer, but they didn't announce a Constantine ongoing.
I'd be fine with that.
So you'd be okay with him appearing in Justice League Dark as that character without the Hellblazer version of it?
He'd be okay. Like I said, he's not a character I enjoy. I like the other characters in the book better than him. I don't really enjoy his character in that. Well, no, obviously not saying that somebody can't change something about it, but I'd always keep looking back to going, okay, here he was awesome, and here he's
Mm-hmm.
And until they gave whoever the ability to change the way he is now, which I don't think they'll ever do, because they don't have the time, the space, or the investment in the character, I don't think. And I think like I said, we talked about earlier with the editorial being the way it is and their mandates about how they want their books to be, it's going to be an action comic to some degree, not a thoughtful comic. And so it'll never have the room to develop the character into the kind of thing he has been.
Well, I guess
so. I would have been happier with them. 300, we're done with the book, and they could have said, it was sales or whatever the hell they wanted to say. The book was done. I'd be mad that it was done, but it got canceled just to get canceled. But to cancel it and then to make this kind of what to me feels like there's no way it can't be a weaker, bastardized version of the character in the DCU is insulting. And that's me taking it personal.
Mm-hmm. Well,
if they wouldn't have produced, if they weren't saying that they're going to put out a new title in the DC proper, I'd have been fine with it. I mean, I'd be mad that it's canceled. But...
Well, that goes back to what you were saying at the beginning of the episode about the how much we feel a certain amount of ownership in these characters or the stories, whatever. Yeah.
And I'm crazy. I recognize that, so I'm not totally off my rock.
Well, I guess we'll have to see. We'll just have to read Constantine and talk about it, what it is for what it is.
That's going to be hard to
do. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that conversation, though.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. Oh.
All right. Well, Travis, is there anything else that we should talk about?
Nope.
Or have I depressed you out of it?
I'm done.
All right. I'll include a link to that your rant about that, if you don't mind.
That's fine.
On the post, so people can look that up as well to see the angry Travis.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was great talking to you again about this breaking late news, Travis. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about these things. All right, that's the end of the episode. Be sure to leave feedback. Email me at longboxreview@gmail.com or leave thoughts on the blog at longboxreview.wordpress.com. All right, that's it. Thanks, Travis.
Yep.
Thanks for listening.